Think about the last time you sat across from, I don't know, a client or your boss, and you pitched a proposal you spent weeks on.
Oh, yeah. High stakes.
Right, high stakes, and they just look you dead in the eye and give you a flat, hostile no.
Just the worst feeling.
It is. And if you're like most human beings, your brain instantly floods with cortisol, your heart rate spikes, you probably, stutter or get defensive or honestly just completely freeze up.
Well, yeah, because our biology literally wires us to panic when we hit that kind of a wall of resistance. That fight or flight response just takes over.
Exactly.
And suddenly your prefrontal cortex, like the logical reasoning part of your brain, it just goes completely offline.
You're just totally blank.
Yeah, and you start grasping for any argument to defend yourself, which, let's be honest, usually just makes the situation so much worse.
It really does. But what if you had like a psychological override for that exact moment?
Right.
What if you had a literal script that could bypass that panic, instantly project absolute certainty, and turn that hostile no into a collaborative yes?
That's the dream, right?
It is. And today on the Deep Dive, that's our mission. We are opening up the ultimate playbook for navigating these high-stakes moments. We're extracting the core psychological communication tools from real estate coach Kevin Ward.
Oh, Kevin Ward. This is good stuff.
It's fascinating. We've got this massive stack of his coaching materials, his transcripts, and crucially, his exact word-for-word scripts for handling intense objections at listing appointments.
And I think it's important to point out early on, while his specific battleground is the high-stakes world of real estate, the underlying psychology we're pulling from these sources, it applies to literally any human interaction where there's friction.
100%.
Ward calls his philosophy, get yes without the BS, and honestly, it functions as this masterclass in persuasion, boundary setting, and redirecting human behavior.
So even if you never plan to sell a house in your entire life, you're going to want to take notes today. We are unpacking how to completely eliminate self-sabotaging words from your vocabulary, how to handle terrifying demands to cut your pay, and really how to redirect someone's anger toward a shared goal.
It's all about shifting the dynamic.
Right. But to understand how these scripts actually work, I feel like we have to start with the foundation. What makes Ward's approach different from the stereotypical high-pressure sales tactics we've all been subjected to?
Well, Ward builds his entire framework on abandoning deception. He defines BS very specifically in his materials.
Okay, how so?
It's basically any kind of trickery, white lie, or false pretense used to just get your foot in the door or manipulate a decision. His ultimate litmus test is really simple. If the client knew what you were really thinking or the actual reason you were saying something, would they be upset?
Oh, wow. That's a high bar.
Right. And if the answer is yes, then according to Ward, that's BS.
I mean, a classic move you see in real estate, and honestly in just about any kind of outbound sales, is the fake bait.
Oh, yeah, the bait and switch.
Exactly. Like someone is trying to sell their home themselves, right? A for sale by owner. And an agent calls them up claiming, oh, hey, I might have a buyer for your house. Can I come take a look? But the reality is they don't have a buyer.
Not at all.
They just want to get inside the house so they can pitch their listing services to the owner.
Yeah. And Ward points out that this isn't just an unethical thing to do. It is tactically ruinous for your business. You are literally training the seller not to hire you.
Wait, how so? Because you're proving their point.
Exactly. If you say you have a buyer and you just want to bring them by, you are reinforcing the seller's false belief that they don't actually need a professional to market their home.
Oh, I see. They think, great, I can just sit back, let these random agents bring me buyers, and totally avoid paying a listing commission.
Right. You've just validated the exact do-it-yourself strategy that you are supposedly trying to convince them to abandon. You hand them the evidence they need to reject you.
That makes so much sense. So what's the alternative then?
Ward advocates for an approach built entirely on truth and what he calls absolute certainty.
Absolute certainty. Okay.
So instead of the bait and switch, you call and just say, look, I know you're trying to sell it yourselves, but if I can get you a better result and more net money in your pocket, would you be open to a conversation?
That's bold.
It is, because the foundation of handling any objection is that certainty. You must genuinely believe that hiring you or, agreeing to your proposal is the best decision that person could possibly make.
I mean, I have to push back a little here, though. Is it really possible to operate in high-stakes sales, or even just aggressively negotiate a salary without at least a little bit of manipulation?
I know, it sounds almost utopian, right?
It does. How does a person project that level of absolute certainty without crossing the line into just pure arrogance?
Well, the distinction between arrogance and certainty really comes down to your focus. Like, arrogance is entirely about you and your ego. Arrogance says, hey, look how great I am.
Right. I'm the best.
Exactly. Certainty, on the other hand, is an absolute commitment to the other person's outcome. Ward insists that communication must be about serving, not selling.
Serving, not selling.
Yeah. Selling implies trying to get someone to do something for your benefit. Serving means you are there to help them get what they want. Certainty comes from knowing that your specific process will actually get them a better result.
So it's not about you at all.
Not at all. If you don't have absolute confidence in your own value, the person sitting across from you never will.
That is a massive paradigm shift. Your certainty is anchored in the result you deliver for them, not in how great you think you are.
Precisely.
But, okay, keeping that mindset of serving over selling in place, things obviously get complicated when the client pushes back and makes a demand you simply cannot meet.
Right, the friction.
Yeah, the friction, which leads right into Ward's core rules of resistance. And it starts with banning the most common word in the English language.
Yes. If you want to master communication, you have to understand resistance triggers. And the ultimate resistance trigger is the word no. Ward has a very strict rule, never tell a client no.
Okay, but what if they ask for something completely unreasonable? Like a client demands you cut your pay in half, or your boss expects you to work every single weekend for free. You just agree to it.
No, not at all. You definitely refuse the demand, but you never use the word no to do it. The neuroscience behind this is actually fascinating.
Oh, really? What's going on in the brain?
Well, when you tell an adult no, it subconsciously takes them right back to childhood rejection. Think about it. When you were a kid, no meant you couldn't have what you wanted.
It was a total lack of control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you hear a flat no as an adult, it instantly triggers the amygdala. It creates this defensive adversarial response. It puts you and the client on opposite sides of the table fighting against each other rather than, collaborating on a solution.
Wow. So the word no just creates an instant adversary in the room.
It does. But there's another subtle way we trigger resistance, and it's not by denying the client, but by undermining ourselves.
Undermining ourselves.
Yeah. When a client makes a tough demand, human instinct is to pass the buck, right? We try to soften the blow by saying, I can't.
Ah, I can't. Yeah, that's the second ban phrase in his framework.
Right. A client asks you to lower your fee, and you say, man, I would, but I can't. My broker won't let me. Or, I can't. It's company policy.
Which feels like such a great excuse in the moment, because it deflects all the blame away from you.
It deflects the blame, sure. But think about what it signals to the other person. It tells them you have absolutely no power, you have no authority.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. People making major financial or business decisions want to work with a professional who is in complete control. If you say, I can't, you are advertising your own weakness. You're basically telling them they need to go find whoever can.
That is so true. Okay, so we can't say no, and we can't say I can't. What do we say?
The replacement word offers is, I don't.
I don't. And thinking about how that plays out in real life, it's kind of like a bouncer at an exclusive club, right?
Oh, I like that analogy. Let's hear it.
Well, if you walk up to the velvet rope and the bouncer looks at you and says, you can't come in, or no, absolutely not, you instantly feel rejected.
Oh, yeah,
You
totally.
take it personally, your ego flares up, and you want to argue and fight him. But if the bouncer just calmly points to your shoes and says, we don't allow sneakers, it completely depersonalizes the situation.
Yeah.
It's not a rejection of you as a human being. It's just a statement of their standard. It takes the sting completely out of the rejection.
That's exactly it. The bouncer isn't rejecting you personally. They're just enforcing a standard.
Yeah.
And in business, saying, I don't, establishes a firm boundary based on your business model and your value.
It's just policy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't discount my commission is infinitely more powerful than I can't discount my commission. One is a standard, the other is a limitation.
Okay, knowing what not to say is great in theory, but let's be real. When you are sitting in that room and a client throws a totally unexpected curveball at you, your brain still wants to freeze.
Oh, of course.
The adrenaline hits and the filler words just start leaking out. How do you stop the panic from taking over before you can even deploy that I don't standard?
Ward actually has a very specific three-step mechanical framework. for this exact physiological response. He calls it the confidence objection frame.
The confidence objection frame?
Yes. It is designed to catch any objection smoothly and literally buy your brain the time it needs to process without sounding flustered at all.
So the 3 steps are repeat, affirm, and answer. Walk me through that.
Okay, so step 1, you simply repeat their objection back to them. Step 2, you affirm it by saying something like, "That is a great question," or "I appreciate you asking that." And then step 3, you transition to the answer by stating, "Let me explain exactly why," or "Let me tell you exactly how I handle that."
Let me make sure I have this. If someone hits me with a tough question like, how many homes have you even sold in this neighborhood? Instead of panicking, I would say, how many homes have I sold in this neighborhood? That is a great question, and let me tell you exactly how I handle that.
Nailed it. And the psychological brilliance of this frame is really about what it replaces. Because when someone asks a tough question, most people immediately use filler words.
Oh, like, well, see, the thing is.
Exactly. And those words instantly destroy your credibility. They signal to the other person that they have you on the ropes. The confidence objection frame replaces those panic words with a projection of total control.
That's like a buffer.
Right. It buys your prefrontal cortex the 3 or 4 seconds it needs to retrieve the right answer, while making the client feel completely heard and respected.
Okay, I see the mechanics of it buying you time, but I have to admit I'm a little confused here. If someone is being really hostile or aggressive, isn't looking them in the eye and saying, that is a great question, going to sound incredibly sarcastic, like
Yeah.
you're patronizing them.
Yeah, it absolutely can backfire if your delivery is wrong, which is why Ward emphasizes that tonality is everything. The music underneath the words matters just as much as the lyrics themselves.
So how should it sound?
It cannot sound like an interrogation, and it cannot sound sarcastic. You have to use what's called a downswing tonality.
Downswing tonality.
Yeah, it's a calm, authoritative cadence where your pitch actually lowers at the end of the sentence. You are honoring their concern. Because when a person feels genuinely heard and validated, their defensive posture naturally melts away. You're acknowledging their right to ask the hard question without conceding an inch of your own authority.
Okay, so we have the framework to buy time, and we know we need to project absolute certainty. Let's actually put this into practice using the transcripts of Ward's word-for-word scripts from our sources today.
Let's do it.
We have to look at the most terrifying objection in any sales scenario. A client asking you to cut your pay.
Ooh, the commission objection. It's the one that makes everyone sweat.
Right. So the seller looks at you and says, look, another agent said they would do it for 4%. Will you cut your commission? Walk me through the mechanics of Ward's response.
All right, using the confidence frame, the agent responds. That is a great question. I appreciate you asking. I don't discount my commission. Can I explain why?
And the seller naturally says yes.
Right. Then the agent says, because I don't deliver discount results, and I'm sure you're not looking to discount your house.
I don't deliver discount results.
Wow, that is incredibly bold. But notice the specific vocabulary there. He intentionally uses the word discount instead of cut or reduce.
Yes. Think about what the word discount triggers in the consumer's mind.
Right.
It brings up images of cheap products, clearance racks, or going out of business sales. Ward points out that an agent cutting their commission by 50% just to get the job is essentially running a clearance sale on their own value.
Oh, totally. If you walked into a luxury store and everything was suddenly 50% off, you wouldn't think, wow, what a deal. You'd assume they were desperate or the product was defective.
And this applies whether you are selling a house or sitting in a performance review at a corporate job. If you offer to slash your salary demands the second your boss pushes back, you are putting your own value on the clearance rack.
By using the word discount, you shift the focus away from your own cost and directly onto the value of the final product, which in this case is the seller's home. The implication is profound here. A professional who doesn't have the courage to stand up for their own value is certainly not going to have the courage to stand up for your money when negotiating with a buyer.
Wow, that is powerful. But what if the seller pushes back again? Like they say, well, we just want the most money in our pocket and paying a lower fee helps us do that.
So Ward's follow-up to that is what he calls an emotional takeaway.
Okay.
He says, if you're looking to the cheapest agent, I'm probably not your guy. If you're looking for the most money in your pocket after all expenses, that's why people hire me.
It forces the seller to choose between the cheapest option and the most profitable option.
Yep. And it completely removes the adversarial tension because you are aligning with their ultimate goal. netting the most money.
Man, okay. I want to look at another script that tackles a completely different kind of resistance. It's the classic stall tactic.
Oh, yeah.
You pitch your proposal, you ask for the signature, and the client leans back and says, "We need to think about it."
Such a common one.
Usually, our instinct tells us to manufacture artificial urgency, right? We say, "What is there to think about?" Or, "Hey, this offer expires tomorrow." But Ward does the exact opposite.
When a client says, we need to think about it,
Mhm.
Ward's response is so counterintuitive. He simply says, awesome, I totally agree.
Wait, he agrees with the stall.
He agrees. And then he immediately follows up with the next question in his process. No arguing, no pressure, no debate.
Why does this conversational judo work so well? It feels like you're just giving up.
Because it instantly removes the friction. When a client says, I need to think about it, they are bracing for a fight. They expect you to push back, which means their guard is entirely up. When you say, awesome, I totally agree, you completely drop the rope in the tug of war. They suddenly have nothing to pull against.
Ah, I see.
Their defenses drop. And because human beings naturally want to follow confident leadership and avoid conflict, they just follow your lead to the next topic. You maintain absolute rapport while retaining complete control of the process.
Okay, so you've won the commission argument, you've bypassed the stall tactic, but now you have to actually agree on strategy, specifically the price of the home.
Always a touchy subject.
Always. Let's say the data clearly shows a house is worth $400,000, but the seller is emotionally attached and demands to list it at $415,000. How do you handle that without telling them they are flat out wrong?
He relies on something called search bracket psychology.
Okay, how does that work?
First, he uses the confidence frame. I hear what you're saying at $415,000, and that may be possible. However, based on the way buyers search for properties, I'm suggesting $400,000, and you can see why that's the right price. Correct.
Well, to prove that $400,000 is the right price, you have to explain the actual digital mechanics of how humans look for things online. I know when I go on real estate apps, I don't type in random numbers. I use the slider tools, and those sliders are always in neat, clean increments.
Exactly. Buyers search in round numbers. Someone sets their search filter for a maximum of $400,000. Another buyer sets theirs for a minimum of $400,000 up to, say, $450,000.
Yeah.
Nobody sets a custom search filter for $387,000 to $419,000.
Right. So the algorithms literally hide the property if you price it wrong. If you price the house at $415,000, the people searching up to $400,000 will never even see it. It won't populate on their map.
It just disappears. But if you price it right on the bracket line at $400,000, you capture the buyers from the lower bracket looking at the very top of their budget, and you capture the buyers from the higher bracket looking for a great deal.
You double the eyeballs on the property.
Yes. And doubling the eyeballs creates a competitive environment, which leads to multiple offers, which ultimately drives the final sale price up, often way above that $415,000 the seller originally wanted. By explaining the strategy of the algorithms, you aren't fighting them on the emotional value of their home. You are aligning on a tactical plan to get them the most money.
That is brilliant. Okay, we've covered strategy, but what happens when all logic just goes completely out the window?
Uh-oh.
We briefly touched on the hostile client earlier, but we need to dive deep into the ultimate burn-it-down objection. A seller looks at you, completely furious, and says, "I'd rather burn my house down than list with a real estate agent again."
Yikes.
They're angry, they are defensive, and they basically want you out of their house.
This is where Ward's acknowledge, reframe, redirect strategy becomes absolutely essential. When faced with that level of raw hostility, the worst thing you can do is get defensive, or even worse, try to apologize on behalf of your entire industry.
Right, because if you say, well, hey, not all agents are like that, let me prove I'm different, you just sound like everyone else they've already rejected.
You're just adding to the noise. Instead, you start with deep acknowledgement. You say, I hear you. It sounds like you've had a terrible experience with some agents, and I'm sorry that happened. You validate their frustration without accepting any of the blame yourself.
Okay, so that's the acknowledge. Then you execute the reframe.
Right. You reframe their absolute permanent statement into a temporary condition. They said, I will never list with an agent. You reframe it by saying, so right now, you really are not planning to hire an agent. I get it.
Oh, man. That is incredibly subtle, but so powerful. You validate their current emotion, but you quietly insert the words right now. You are separating their temporary emotional state from a permanent life decision.
Exactly. And that tiny shift opens the door for the redirect. You immediately pivot to their ultimate motivation. If I could help you get the property sold and still net the money you need in your pocket to make this move happen, would you at least be open to a conversation?
You literally bypass all the anger and go straight to the finish line.
Yeah, it really is about separating the person's current emotional state from their ultimate goal.
Mm.
You don't buy into their angry story. You just keep offering a bridge to their desired outcome.
That really is the essence of the entire get yes without the BS philosophy, isn't it? You become their ally simply by focusing entirely on the result they want rather than getting sucked into the conflict they are trying to create.
Absolutely.
Let's take a step back and just look at the sheer utility of the toolkit we've built today. We started by redefining sales, moving away from sleazy bait and switch tactics, and anchoring everything in an absolute certainty that serves the client's best outcome.
Serving, not selling.
Exactly. And we learned that the word no triggers a primal childhood defense mechanism in the brain, and that saying I can't completely surrenders our authority. We banished both of them in favor of the boundary-setting power of I don't.
We also unpack the confidence objection frame, repeat, affirm, answer, which stops the physiological panic response, kills the filler words, and projects total control through downswing tonality.
Yes. And we looked at the exact psychology of words like discount, how to use digital search brackets to literally double your audience, and how to gently judo an angry never into a collaborative right now. It all comes back to that bouncer analogy, really depersonalizing the conflict and focusing entirely on the standard.
It's all about holding that frame.
It is. And knowledge like this is most valuable when you can actually apply it to your daily life, reorienting your interactions away from friction and toward mutual goals. So I want to leave you with a final thought today.
Let's hear it.
Think about the last time you had to negotiate something. It could have been your salary, a major purchase, or even just deciding how chores are split up with your partner. How much of the friction, the anger, or the stalling in that conversation came directly from the word no? What would happen if, starting tomorrow morning, you completely removed no and I can't from your vocabulary and replaced them exclusively with I don't? Would you still be stuck outside the ropes, or would you finally be the one running the door?